I'm actually about to get a TV now for the first time in years.
Hey, but Poloko is serious about life.
Another piece of very bad advice. You are dreaming too big. You're watching a movie, you haven't made it. You can never thrive from a place of burden. How you do one thing is how you do everything.
Poloko.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to Beyond the Hustle, my brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for having me, man. It's going to be a good one.
I've always wanted to have you here. I remember my first interaction with your content. I think you were doing an interview with Thibaut Touch. You said something profound. You spoke about someone who once helped you in your journey, and then you explained how that person expected you to pay them back. Can you just take us through that?
So you see, I remember at that time, there was a quote that everyone still quotes to me, where I said that the only way to pay it back is to pay it forward. You only pay it back by paying it forward. And so, in other words, and I remember saying this to Thibaut Touch at the time, I said to him, because I was still starting off, I was unknown on social media. I don't know how I ended up there, but it was a relationship that I had. So at the time, I remember just before that, I had had an interaction with someone, and this person had just called me out of the blue. What do you need? How can I help you? You've just been on my heart and I just can't shake it. And so I said, okay, well, I tried to pretend at first. And then eventually I said, listen, I've got this book that I'm writing. This is where I am right now. I want to put it out there. And they said, okay, what do you need to put it out? I said, I just want to print 50 copies. They said, I've got you. What else do you need? I said, I also need just a little bit of money to support that. Okay. Is that all? Is there anything else I can help you with? And now I'm processing this whole thing. I'm saying, man, what do you mean? You just randomly, what do you want in return? Because we're not used to that, right? We're not used to people just reaching out and just wanting to help. So at the time, I still remember we had that conversation, and then I left the house sometime that afternoon because they actually sent me an e-wallet that same day. So I went to the ATM to go and get the e-wallet. When I get there, there's a guy who's sitting close to the ATM begging. And this guy who's begging is sitting there, and he says, just something to eat. Can you help me with just 10 rands? And I had a 10 rand note on me, and I gave him the 10 rand note. I went and got my money, and then I left. But as I'm walking away, I remember this person saying to me, what else do you need? How can I help you? And they went above and beyond. And so when they did this for me, I said, man, there's no way that I can just be here giving someone who's hungry 10 rands. I don't know if you're how familiar you are with our currency, but that's not enough to get you anything. So I remember going back to him, and it was fascinating because I had the same conversation that was had with me. One that said, okay, let's go into this shop. It was a fish and chips. I said, what do you want? He said, just some buns. I said, no, what do you want? Said a little bit of chips. I said, give me the large chips. I said to him, what else do you want? He said, maybe a drink. I said, get me the 2 liter. What else do you want? He said, maybe a little bit of a Vienna. I said, get me the chips and get me the Russian. What else do you want? Right. And I'm doing this not because I'm big spender, but just because I'm reflecting the same conversation that was had with me on a larger scale, where someone was saying, okay, what do you need? I need 5,000 for this. Okay, what else do you need? I think I'm going to need 2,000 for this. Okay, what else do you need? And now as I'm reflecting on that, I'm remembering, I said, okay, this is my way of paying back what was done for me just this morning. And so I've lived with that same philosophy ever since. That's how you pay back people. The only way you can pay people back is by finding someone who is in the same position that you were in and just say, what can I do for you because of what was done for me? That's a debt I owe, and that's a debt I must pay back.
Wow. I like that concept, and it gets me thinking that if you are to help and you have capacity to help, help entirely. If you can, don't take a shortcut. I in my area of work, we work with a lot of corporates, and at times, you know that the corporate is capable of moving you as an SME from this point to the next point. What else do you need? What else do you need? Because the SMEs themselves, they always know what they need, right? And at times it just takes one giant company to take a small business to great heights, right? But in most cases, it will be no, just get that piece of bread. Giving another piece of bread to that guy and that guy and that guy. Before you know it, none of these SMEs exist anymore.
Yes.
So if they were to use that very same concept to say, okay, so we've given you this job. What else do you need? I need my people to be capacitated. Absolutely. What else do you need? I need distribution. I need to move into this market where you are, right? And then they get them there. So Poloko, just for the sake of your followers, because you have such a good following on TikTok. I've seen that you are closing in on 5 million likes. And numbers to me, they speak volumes. It's not a thing of hype and fame. It's always a thing of there are people who are really touched by the message that you put out there. That's really what numbers mean to me. So as we start our interview, I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions totally unrelated to what we are discussing here today. Yeah. So if your life was a soundtrack, would it be amapiano or gospel?
Gospel, definitely. And I know that is so cliche. That is so cliche. It would definitely be gospel. I've never really gotten into amapiano like that to really figure it out. You see, it'll be different if you asked me like hip hop. When I grew up listening to hip hop. So never really got into amapiano like that. Yeah. But so I guess it will be gospel.
To be gospel.
Given those options.
Okay. So second one, would you rather forget your lines when making a presentation or trip as you step on stage?
I'll forget my lines. I'll forget the lines. Let's forget the lines. Do you know what it takes to get up? Like, you can't just get up and pretend everything is okay. Everyone forgets their lines every now and then. You'll stumble a little bit. Yeah. You just stand there blank and try to get it back. But getting up, having a visual. Yeah. Forgetting lines doesn't appear on pictures, by the way. Yeah. Tripping shows on pictures. Like, I can see you on a picture. So, I don't want to fall anywhere. And
I can imagine, when you trip just getting on stage, people might spend a bit of time just wondering if you're okay. And you have started to talk and they're still thinking about it. Is he okay?
We're still thinking about it. And not everyone is thinking that. Some people can't stop laughing. They can't help it. To the point where everything is hurting inside because I'm laughing. So
I remember at some point when I was still at junior school, there was this teacher. We didn't really like this teacher at school. And I was from, I think, the restrooms. And then as I was walking back to class, she was stepping down on the stairs. And then she tripped and fell. I think I'm the only one who saw her, right? She tripped and fell. And she was rolling like that. And I looked at it. It wasn't funny at all. Like I thought I would laugh at it, and I couldn't laugh. I just went to class, and then round about the afternoon, class was in session, and then it just came back to me, and I couldn't stop laughing. Like it was coming back as a movie. Like what did I see?
You see, you can't help it, man. You cannot help it. We had a similar teacher, but he fell in front of the whole assembly. And with him, this was in primary school. Yeah. He was vicious, man. At that time, that's when you were still allowed to beat children. You were allowed to beat, not just hit, beat. Yeah. And this guy, when he fell, you can only imagine that all of his victims just started laughing. No one could stop laughing. Every class, that was the topic. So
for sweet revenge.
Man, straight from the Lord.
And if you're enjoying this podcast, don't forget to drop a like. It actually tells the algorithm that people are enjoying this show. Your journey started when you were 19, somewhere there.
Yes, sir.
So we just want to know who is Poloko from the time you were 19 or even earlier. What is it that has built the man that Poloko is today?
There's a lot of things. Man. So from the time that I was 19, I just had this surge of curiosity. I'm just curious. I just want to know, what is it that makes people who they are? And what can I become? Yeah. What will it take for me to become that? And when I talk about that curiosity, it also goes into the faith part. So growing up, I grew up with a grandmother who taught me not the Bible, even hymns, church hymns. I knew hymns before I knew the Bible.
Yeah.
And growing older, I wanted to understand, why am I going to church? What is it about this Bible that is so special? Is there anything to this? What's the truth of it? What is the validity of all of this?
Yeah.
And from then I just decided, you know what, let me go and explore for myself. Let me go and find out for myself. And from when I was 19, I still remember I had this holiday job that I had. Worked for a month after finishing grade 12. Worked for a month in retail as one of those guys that follow you and stalk you in the shop, trying to see, because I want that commission.
Yeah.
And that was, for lack of a better word, to me, it was dehumanizing because I was so disheartened by what it takes to make the kind of money that I wasn't even happy with. I understand it's one thing if I do all this work and then go buy a car that I like. Yeah. Okay, sharp. But doing all of that work, going home miserable, and at the end of that month, I still remember they gave us our money, and they gave it to us in this little packet. It wasn't even an envelope. It was a few notes that had coins with it. And I was like, guys, you could have rounded off to a note, but handed it over to us. And I still remember walking out of that shop. I went over to a bookshop that was next to it, because I just had something say, go there. Went into that bookshop because now I'm at a point where I need to decide who I am. Yeah. Where am I going? I just finished high school. Everyone is asking, what are you going to do? What are you going to become? And I feel like I should have figured it out already, but I haven't. So let me explore this whole idea that God has a plan for me. I want to hear what that's all about. So I remember I went into that bookshop. I said, please give me a Bible. I gave them more than half of the money that I had for that month. I bought a Bible with it, with the change, just went to McDonald's and, let it be. Walked home after that. So after getting that, I just poured myself into it because I was curious. Curiosity has always been the driving force behind my life. I want to know, what can I become? How far can I go? How much can I do? How much can I accomplish? And I just want to find out. It's not even, sometimes it can be interpreted as ambition. Yeah. But I think more so I'm curious. Like, even when I was into running, I was always curious, like, how far can my body take me? How fast can it go? How much can I take? How much can I tolerate? And to this point, that's what it is. Yeah. In relationships, how much can I give? How good can I become of a friend to you? Yeah. How much value can you get from me? How valuable can I become? So that curiosity has driven me to this point where I've now written a book, the fourth book. I've now written the fourth book. I've been to different places, spoken to people from high school students to the members of parliament and corporate executives. Yeah. It's all been curiosity. Yeah. Just the same thing I tell people, just try to find out what you can become. Try to find out how much is in you. Yeah. So that's what it is.
It's funny you are saying that. Earlier on, we were just having a conversation about value, and we were comparing people to commodities, and we are all in the marketplace. And in the marketplace, there's the concept of demand and supply. At some point this product is in demand, at some point it's a totally different product. But what gives that product real value is what would be added to that product over a period of time. And I think people are just like that. And you spoke of relationships, and I thought, we should stretch that just a bit, to say, how important is it for someone to, increase their level of value within a relationship, and also your observations in the market, because I feel like we have some kind of a relationship pandemic happening, and I think it boils down to value. How important is it for someone to really increase that value, and how can people start?
I'm going to give you a very shameless plug here. I wrote Unlocking Favor with God and People, right? And I love that question because it fits so well with that, which is, when I wrote this, I was thinking to myself, anyone can become anything. I've really taken some time and I've come to the conclusion, anyone can become anything they want to. So with that, when I wrote this, when we talk about favor, because we hear the word favor a lot. You hear it in church, and then outside you hear it more in the sense of, can you do me a favor? Connections and, unfair advantage. And for me, favor is that supernatural advantage that a person has, but how do they get it? So when I started this off, I started off speaking about Proverbs, the proverb that says, a man's gift will make room for him and put him in the presence of the great. And what that talks about, it doesn't talk about how talented you are. Yeah. It talks about the gift you give, right? Your ability to give. And that speaks to investment in relationships. Because after that, that's the first part of the book. And then the second part goes on to talk about value. And then we talk about excellence. And then we talk about relationships, right? So you then realize that no matter who you are, you cannot, it's impossible. And that's just the beginning of it, because there are so many other principles as well as spiritual principles that we talk about. But at a practical level, it is nearly impossible for you to become a person of value and deliver that value with excellence and not win. Because the truth is, people are inherently selfish. And so what we want is we want what works for us. Yeah. And so for me to sit here on a podcast with you, eventually, because of your track record, I can comfortably say that you will get to a point where this platform is global. Yeah. But for you to sit down with me, you didn't sit down with me because you're trying to do a good deed. Yeah. You sat down with me because you've observed my life and you've seen some measure of value. Yeah. And you decided to reach out and say, let me put you on this platform. Yeah. And then at some point when this platform becomes the global sensation that I know it will become, this in the same way, to me, it's okay. That's why I was there. Yeah. That's why I sat down with him. Yeah. That's why I gave my time. Yeah. So every single person is capable of increasing their value through investment in themselves. Every single person is capable of attaining a standard of excellence. And that excellence doesn't really speak to, it doesn't speak to expensive necessarily, right? It's just how you present what you have. So what you have right now, how do you present it? You're a speaker. How often do you practice just to polish yourself up? Yeah. You're a podcaster. How often do you take time to watch back some of your podcasts so that you can learn how to ask better questions? Or, you sing or you run a business. How often do you ask for feedback from the 2 customers that you have since you want more customers? Yeah. How often do you sit down with them or reach out to them to say, listen, what can I do better? How could I have improved your experience with me? So every person is capable of improving the value that they offer to people. But it starts with understanding some of these principles. Like I said, being a giver more than you are a taker. People are exhausted with takers, especially people of value, people of significance. You are someone who is in a position of influence. And I'm pretty sure that if you go through your DMs, there are more people trying to get something than give you something. Yeah. Right? There are more people reaching out to say, can you do this for me? Can you be my mentor? Can you read this book for me? Can you, it's all, can you give me? Yeah. You set yourself apart when you become a giver. Yeah. And I mentioned this in the book as well, that there was a time I met this gospel artist. I was in a restaurant with a friend of mine, And at another table, I see a very famous South African gospel artist. And I still remember, I said to my friend, that looks like him, right? And he said, yeah, no, that's definitely him. And I wanted to go over because immediately my mind was, man, imagine I get him and then I can get him for a concert and I can organize an event and I tell people that he's going to be there.
Thinking of your gains.
Yes. Immediately I'm thinking about gains. And funny enough, one of his guys who were with him recognized me. And the guy came over to me and he greeted me. And I said, hey man, by the way, is that? And he said, no, of course it's him. Yeah. And I said, can I come greet him? He said, of course, come greet him. I greeted him and I still remember he gave me a contact, right? Which I assume this contact is for his booking, management or whoever.
Yeah.
And guess what? The first thought I had was, how do I ask for this favor? Because I thought about the guy who recognized me. And I remember I reached out to a friend of mine who's older than me. And he said to me, listen, don't do that. He said, reach out and find out how it is that you can contribute to what they do.
Yeah.
So what happened was they had a concert coming up and I just reached out and said, I'd like to give away 10 tickets to your concert. Is there a way I can do that? You can give them away, whatever. And he said, great. No, of course. And to this day, I have contact with that guy. And that's because when I showed up to him, I showed up to give.
Didn't come to take.
I didn't come to take. I would have gotten rid of him quickly if I came, just give me something.
Yeah.
And anyone can give, by the way.
Absolutely.
Right? Because most people think, but I don't have, what can I give that I don't have? Everyone has something to give.
Yeah. I like how you turned around. I call it selfishness, right? As human beings, we are all selfish, but it's just, the difference is on how you define selfishness. So I define selfishness as, you being in touch with the things that you need as a person, right? So if I, like you said, if I call you on a podcast, I'm not just calling you on a podcast. I'm calling you because you are someone of value, right? There's something, that, I can benefit by giving you something. So my giving you is the selfish act that I do, right? When I take my kids to a good school, it's a selfish act. It's not for the kids, it's for me. When they get educated, they will benefit me. Even when they don't benefit me, they have their own independent lives. They are benefiting me because they're not giving me a headache, right?
Absolutely.
So when I go to, I see a kid who's struggling and I take them on to teach them a skill that can help them to earn. It's a selfish act because once they have gained that, or even me giving them something, it makes me feel really good, right? So it is a selfish act. So I think the challenge has always been with most people that you don't really know what you can give. Because you don't know what you can give, you start to believe that you asking for something then becomes a real selfish act. But truth is, we give so that we gain. The equation has to be complete.
Yes.
Right? You give, you have to gain. So when you pray, you are praying and you gain some spiritual comfort, right? You will gain. When you give someone, you gain some spiritual comfort, or you feel some form of peace. So I like how you spin to that.
Yes, you know what it is. It's a cycle, right? Now I always say, don't break the cycle.
Yeah,
the clouds give rain to the earth. The earth has to give it back. There has to be that evaporation.
Yeah,
it has to go back to where it comes from, so that we can get some more rain. If the ground receives rain and it doesn't want to give anything back, if the earth receives and it doesn't want to give anything to the clouds, you won't have rain anymore. You cut the cycle short.
Yeah.
In the same way, you are married and you understand that with your wife, the only way to get is to give. The only way you can receive from her is by giving to her. You give yourself, you give the protection, you give love, you give care, you give kindness, all of these things.
Yeah.
And that's the only way that you give. And unfortunately, most people don't understand how to keep the cycle going. They break the cycle at this point where once I receive, I forget that I'm supposed to give.
Yeah.
And that cycle, funny enough, is not, it doesn't just have to be between the two of us.
Yeah.
Because God works in mysterious ways where you might have given over thee, but the way that it comes back to you is in a completely unrelated way, right? You get it in a completely unrelated, like you said, you give money, but then you feel fulfilled in a deeper, in a deeper way that having the money wouldn't have done it for you. Like if you held on to the money wouldn't have done that for you. But once you gave the money, you got something that money cannot buy. And that's the irony of it. So there's a cycle. And I would really say, everyone has to learn how to keep the cycle. Don't break the cycle, right? You have a podcast. You love the podcast. You watch the podcast, subscribe to it, like it, share it. Once you do, you understand that that's your way of making sure that you don't break the cycle. Because this thing that's been giving to you demands that you give something to it. And if you don't give to it, if enough people don't give to it, you stop doing all of this because it's too costly and you can't do it without getting anything out of it. So it's very important. I think what you're talking about is just keeping and maintaining that cycle.
Yeah, no, that is powerful. In the world of finances, we always teach that for money to be distributed, there has to be an exchange. It's either service for money, or money for service. There has to be an exchange, right? Where there is no exchange, things become chaotic. If you take a situation of a parent who's always giving money to a child, and the child never works in a way that compensates for the amount of money they have been given, that child will become rotten. So if you are given $1 million, but you have never provided a service worth $1 million, that $1 million will kill you. You see, so I think that is the cycle that you are speaking to. So there's this common issue of black tax in the African community. And I remember not so long ago I was doing a workshop, and this gentleman, I was teaching about giving. And this gentleman was speaking about black tax. He said that, look, as Africans, we can't have the success that you say we can have because of black tax. And then I was like, no, why don't you try to switch it? Why do you give your parents money back at home? Why do you give your cousin money, right? If you can switch that to say, my parents are not I'm not just giving them money. They are my representatives back in the village. They're the ones who go to the funerals. And when they get there, they get there and say, Ratshosa, K, right? They go to weddings. You don't need to be driving back to your home village because the parents are there. They're doing that for you. And then they are maintaining a household where you can always go back to, where you can take your kids to. So if you look at them as service providers in your life, then you won't feel like they're taxing you.
I like that.
You will be paying them back for what they do for you. You see, because if you are just giving them money and there's absolutely nothing that they are doing to help you, you are destroying them. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think I've always been fascinated by that idea of black tax, because everyone complains about it. Everyone says that this, black tax is what's keeping me from my success and this and that. But I've always had a very different, not always, I think rather it evolved. My perspective of it evolved over the years, because I came to, and you can tell me what you think about this, but I came to the realization that, first of all, children don't owe their parents. That's the hard truth that I had to swallow up. Because I was conditioned to believe you owe them, right? Whatever you do is because you owe them. After all they did for you, you better pay them. So for me, I've since taken a different position where I've thought to myself, I don't really owe them. And so what happens is whatever I do for them comes in the form of honor, right? Honor your mother and father so that it may be well with you. So for me, It's a way of honoring them.
Yeah.
It is not. So then I just remove the burden of owing them, because the borrower is slave to the lender. As long as you feel like you owe someone, you're a slave to them.
Yeah.
And you can never thrive from a place of burden. You never thrive from a place of guilt.
Yeah.
So I don't do anything from a place of guilt anymore. So if right now I say, I want to go and buy you groceries, I'm doing this to honor you.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this because I owe you. You are the parent. You are supposed to do everything that you did. If anything, I owe the person down the street who took money from their own children to help me. Them I can feel like I owe.
Yeah.
But with my own parents, I don't owe them. And once I did that, funny enough, that's when that thing broke over my life and I was able to start thriving a little more. And then ironically, you are able to do more for them because now you do it from a place of honor. You don't do it from a place of guilt.
Yeah.
You can't work from guilt
and obligation
and obligation. So that's just how I feel.
Yeah. I share the same. When I think one of the greatest curses is to say, if it wasn't for my parents, I could have been far. I feel when someone says that, you might just get it.
Exactly.
They'll be moved away from your life. And then we'll see how your life is going to pan out, right? But like you said, we don't owe parents. We have an obligation to give them respect, not to take care of them or anything like that. And there's another very tough conversation that needs to be heard of anyone who wants to bring a child into this world, right? You need to be ready for the child, because I personally believe that when you ask God to give you a child, you are basically asking God to give you the responsibility of bringing up a human being who's going to go out there and conquer the world for themselves, not for you. You see?
Yes.
Because when kids come into this world, they don't come into this world as our possessions. Yes. For us to tomorrow say, no, these are my investments. They have to work for me. They have to do this. That is slavery, right? So we bring them in because we feel like we are ready. It's a lot similar to when you are asking God for a job. You say, I need a job because I'm ready. I prepared myself. I'm ready to contribute to a work environment. I'm ready to contribute to this, even in business. So with a child is the same thing. You can't bring a child until you are ready to fulfill that call of raising a human being who's ready to take on the world. That's why I think a lot of African parents, they have problems with kids. You can raise up a child, they become a doctor, and then after graduating, they decide that they don't really want to work. They want to volunteer. They want to go to Somalia and help out. And parents will be pissed. They'll be like, no,
that's what
we took you to school. Yeah, because you want a return, right?
That was your retirement.
Yeah, but the true return comes from God. Once you have done the work and you have done it well and you allow that spirit to move and go and conquer, you will get your reward, but you will not get it directly. I think this conversation still speaks to, what you said earlier, paying it back, right? Yes. You will be paid, but you can't expect God to pay you, directly from the investment that you put your hard work in.
Absolutely. I say this to people all the time because with me, every now and then you get around people and you hear how we all have a similar story, especially among us as Black people. I grew up with nothing. I had nothing, and sometimes I hear someone say, I didn't have anything when I left. My parents didn't give me anything. They didn't. But I'll tell you now, there's a difference between your parents not giving you anything and your parents expecting you to give them everything. So these two people are in very different places.
Yeah.
There's one guy who left home without anything. You'll be fine. I mean, if you left without anything, you'll figure it out and you'll get something. You'll get your life going. But for the person who has to go out there without anything, but not only without anything, but is obligated to take their first salary. And some people will say the first salary belongs to your parents. And don't get me wrong, I really do believe there is a blessing in honoring your parents in that way. Yeah. I believe it 100%. Yeah. I've seen the reward of it. But you're in a very different place when you start with debt, and that debt is not even to ABSA, it's to your parents. Yeah. It's difficult to build. It's difficult to do anything. It's difficult to even get to a place where you honor them, right? Because even the Bible tells us not to give begrudgingly. So what happens is there's no blessing in a gift that is given begrudgingly. If I give to you, I shouldn't expect to receive anything if when I give to you, I have this bitterness in me. Every month, I can take. Yeah. But it has a different type of reward if it comes from a place that says, thank God I can do this. Man, there was a time I couldn't do this. Here you go. Yeah. I would like to honor you. I'd like to bless you. Then there is a reward on that. So I really wish that we would have this switch. And of course, people see it differently. Not everyone has to agree with me on this, but the point remains that it shouldn't be debt. It shouldn't be debt.
That's why we are encouraged not to give out of obligation. So if you are ever going to give anything, make sure that it comes from the bottom of your heart, because the real gift of giving is not material. It's spiritual. So if you are giving out of obligation and you don't like the giving, you don't enjoy the giving, you don't get paid back. I've spoken to a lot of people who said, no, I built a house for my parents. I did this. And I always ask them the question, how has that worked out for you? Do you see great favor coming back into your life? You don't see it. So now you are starting to be like, you even end up, speaking ill of God. I've done this. You have asked us to take care of our parents and stuff like that, but God has never said that. Yep. God said, no, you need to respect them because they are your elders, they are your parents. They brought you into this world, right? But if you are ever going to give them love doing it, enjoy doing it. If you want to help your cousins, your sisters, your family, love doing it, enjoy it. When you are bringing those groceries back at home, you need to be driving there singing and, I'm going to give my family some food. Don't go like, again, another
when you see them eat breakfast in the morning, cooking 6 eggs, it just boils you inside. And you guys know how expensive eggs are. No, man, it's supposed to be cheerful.
It's supposed to be cheerful. Hey guys, thank you so much for staying tuned in. If you are enjoying this show, please drop us a comment. Let us know your thoughts. I always see you as this serious person who's very serious about life. In everything that you do. So I wonder, do you watch any movies?
I do.
You do?
I do. I love action.
Yeah.
So my thing with movies is let entertainment be entertainment.
Yeah.
I don't want to get serious if I'm going to sit down and watch a movie anyway.
Yeah.
So I love action. I love the MCU.
Yeah.
Marvel. The Avengers, I've seen every single Avengers, I think twice. So every Avengers movie, and that's 3 hours a piece. So that's a lot of time. But I do like movies. I enjoy action. I enjoy comedy.
Yeah.
So action and comedy, that's where I am.
Yeah. I think I'm asking that because, at times when people see that you are doing several projects at a time, you are always there and there. You have this seminar, you are writing a book, you are speaking to these people. People always kind of feel like maybe in their own lives, when they find themselves maybe watching a movie or binge watching a series, they're like, hey, but Poloko is serious about life. I don't think this guy even has time to watch a series. And then they'll be like, maybe I need to change and stop all of these things. How important is it for one to understand the seriousness of business and also be able to calm themselves down and activate certain parts of their brain?
Funny enough, I was one of those people who watched other people, and I would listen to motivational speakers, the ones who are radical and extreme.
Yeah.
You're watching a movie, you haven't made it. I was like, yo, That's why I haven't made it, because I've been watching a movie, So I'm actually about to get a TV now for the first time in years.
Yeah.
Right. I'm only about to get a TV in this coming week.
Yeah.
Because I just moved and I was like, you know what? It'd be nice to have a TV in here. Yeah. Because at some point I was like, I don't need a TV. I'm chasing greatness. But I think, man, it's very important to understand balance. I think all of life is balance. So yes, it can be true that the reason why you're stuck is because you are too invested in entertainment, right? Because all of your life, the best way to do it is to keep a time diary. So when I was struggling with this, I used to keep a time diary for myself. So with every single week, each day of the week, what I would do is, and I did this for a season. I don't have to do it all the time. I did it for a season where every single day I just kept this time diary where at the end of the day, I calculate everything that I did in time. So I spent an hour doing this. I spent 2 hours doing that. I spent 4 hours doing that. And then I just summarize everything. Out of all of these, how much of this was an investment towards my future, towards the person I say I want to become? And how much of it was just wasted time? Because once I get to a point where what I'm pouring into myself for my development and for my advancement, my progress, if what I'm pouring in is less than the meaningless conversation I had, the phone call I had for no reason, the movies that I watched, then I know I have a problem, because everything is measurable.
Yeah.
Everything is measurable. Yeah. So you do need that break. So I would just say, just get balance for yourself, right? Get balance for yourself. Watch how it is that you take care of each part of your life. Do I want to just take a break and let my mind breathe a little bit? Because I've actually found that for me, it allows me to, it's a good reset. So it's not always a movie. Sometimes it's an activity, but when it comes to movies, it's a nice little reset. And what it does for me as well, it helps me creatively, because the other side of what I do is creative.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's the business side, and that side is the side of me that I had to work really hard on, by the way, because I'm not very analytical. Yeah. I'm more creative. Yeah. So anyone who has ever heard me speak on stage will see that I have, there's a lot that goes into my communication, especially from stage, which a lot of it is creative. Yeah. So because of that, I need to nurture that part of me. So I enjoy watching movies where I'm fascinated by a storyline, where I'm fascinated by the actual lines within the movie, where I'm fascinated by the parts of it that allow me to just stretch my imagination. And it's a weird thing to say to people, but I like movies that challenge my imagination, because I know one man cannot beat 5,000 men like that, but it's quite nice to just stretch my imagination a little bit. So,
but Jesus spoke to 5,000 men, and I'm imagining at the time there were no surround sounds.
It's always fascinating. It's always fascinating to me.
And I'm like, I think there's something that they didn't tell us there. I think Jesus was using a very powerful mic and a speaker.
I do things like I actually, and of course, there's always a danger in trying to make assumptions about what happened in the Bible that you were not told.
Yeah.
But I have, and it's a weird thing to say publicly because it's something I keep to myself, but I have some kind of suspicion that there is a part of history that we're missing in terms of our advancement. I really do think we advanced and then we sort of went back and now we are advancing again. That's just an assumption that I have. I have that suspicion. I don't think this is the most advanced we've ever been.
Yeah,
I really don't think so.
Yeah.
But
it always switches. I mean, even if you consider fashion, things that were done, fashion that was there back in the day, it keeps on recreating itself, coming back as generations move.
Absolutely.
I can imagine that there's a lot that you've been doing. I've been seeing that you've been promoting your book, Unlocking Favor with God and People. So what does the future look like?
I just know that the future is big.
Yeah.
So I'm in a phase right now where I'm trying to stretch myself. So with this book, for example, it's independently published, but I want to reach 100,000 copies, right? I want to see how fast can I sell 100,000 copies.
Yeah.
And again, it comes from that curiosity, right? Because not so long ago, and by the way, this whole future talk was a bit disrupted. There's an American businessman, Alex Hormozi, that I saw a few weeks ago launch his book. And in launching his book, he sold over 2 million copies in a weekend. Right? In 1 weekend, over 2 million copies. And I remember I was really challenged. I was like, okay, maybe I'm thinking about this wrong. I'm thinking about this wrong because, again, that's how I am, where I just see these things and he's a man, I'm a man, and he's not much older than I am. He's a bit older than I am, but not much older. And I'm thinking to myself, so I know this is possible. And I'm breaking down 100,000 compared to 2 million. Surely I should be able to do 100,000. Yeah. So to me, it's just logical like that. So I am on a journey right now to sell 100,000 copies of this book. And the whole goal is to just put 100,000 copies in the hands of 100,000 people. And I know that is at least 100,000 lives that will awaken to the awareness of the principles that are in here, which are aimed at just letting people know that life can be different. You don't have to stay where you've been. You don't have to accept what you've been told. You can absolutely break through. You can absolutely break out. So for me, it's that the goal, the project to get to 100,000 and just to continue to build the Poloko global platform and the business beyond the country that I'm in right now, which is South Africa, just to continue to build it and to continue to do what you are doing. I mean, we were talking about how you want to set up in a different country to the one that you've always been in. So for me, that is something that we see in the future. So I have the book, but then also on the other side of my business, I've got the coaching, which is communication, public speaking coaching. It's something that I really look forward to expanding into different markets in different parts of the world. So that is something that we are working very hard at. But all I can tell you is, without getting into, prematurely getting into some of the things that we're doing, all I can tell you is everything that we are doing right now, just exponentially. And at this point, it's not even 10xing it, at least multiplying it by 50 and just running a lot faster, going a lot further. So that's where we are. Whatever you see right now, just think of it on a bigger scale.
I love that. I was talking to my daughter just the other week, and we were just talking about progress and where you want to see yourself. And so she's always watching this YouTube videos and stuff. And there's programs that are developed by kids that are viewed over billions on YouTube. It's crazy. So I was just asking her about the type of content that she wants to create, because content creation has to come from somewhere. You don't just take a phone and then you shoot a video and then you start dancing because everyone else is dancing. You need to think, what do you want to give to people and how is it going to impact people, right? And she started talking about her classmates and some of the things that they're doing, what she's thinking about. So I told her, look, why don't you try to find role models, maybe in the States or somewhere, people your age who are doing incredible things. Because I think, in Africa, at 30 years of age, you are still a child. Your parents will be like, no, the kids haven't arrived. Maybe they will come over the weekend. We'll tell them, what we want. You are still, considered as a child. But someone who is 30 years of age in the States, they're already, planning their retirement at 35 or 40. They're already way advanced. They have a family. They have already built. So now the question would be, how different are those people to us? So I like the example that you gave of selling 100,000 copies, and then you find that someone in this world that we live in has sold 2 million copies. You said within 2 weeks.
In a weekend.
In a weekend. So when you think about it, it just blows your mind to say maybe we are thinking too small.
We're thinking too small.
There's a book called The Art of Money Getting. So it's a very old book. This guy is talking about the key principles of creating wealth and making money. And he says the first thing that you need to do, identify your skill, know your vocation, right? And then the second and most important thing to do is to find a market for that skill. You see, because if you don't find the market for that skill, you will never find the money. Even if you, it doesn't matter how hard you work, right? As long as you are in a raw market for your skill, you are always going to feel like life is not fair, or the world is not fair, or maybe you just deserve to make just 100,000, or maybe just 1 million if you are serious. But truth is, your book can sell 2 million somewhere. Immediately, in a day or two.
In a day.
Yeah.
You see, now that's, and that's where it is, right? And I don't know how you think about what you do, but I don't know if this keeps anyone else awake at night, right? Because for me, that's exactly it. I was having a conversation with someone just the other day, and they were talking about the car that they want. And they were saying, but with everything that I have now, it would take a very long time, so I don't know how to do it. And you just thought hypothetically, ask, okay, you have how many books now? I just know of two.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just two.
Yes. You have 2 books. And if I asked you right now, is it possible for one of the videos right now as we're sitting here, one of the videos that you created that point to that book, is it possible for that video right now to get 100 million views on Facebook?
Yeah.
For 100 million people to see it?
Yeah.
It's possible. You know it's possible, right? But sometimes our challenge is getting ourselves there. Like we know it at a theoretical level. Like in theory, we're like, it could happen, but no one has to say it's going to happen for me. But actually, the next question is, could it happen for you? Because you know it can happen because you've seen other videos get 100 million views.
Yeah.
And once you start thinking that way, it's such a fascinating exercise. It's an interesting exercise because you then realize that you can have what we call a quantum leap because you can change, your life can change overnight. You don't have to set these, when I turn 35, when I turn 42, you don't have to think of life that way because life changes so fast that you don't have any of that guarantee. The only thing that you have is now. And so every time that you put something out, you realize this could be it. Yeah. This could be it that changes everything for me. Yeah. And once you start moving that way, you start to think differently. And so I love what you're saying about your daughter because I've always been frustrated. There's an American businessman and the content creator as well. Most people would know him once I mentioned this, but he's always telling people, you have time. He'll talk to a 32-year-old. You're still a baby. Yeah. And I'm like, a baby. So what happens is most people don't have that urgency because they live in a culture that has told them that you can wake up any day and make it happen. And on the one hand, it is true. It's a great thing to say to someone who is 40 and feels like it's too late for them. But you need to be able to speak to somebody who is young and say to them, listen, you need to move quickly. You're not as young as you think you are. And in our country, you are youth at 35. Yeah. 35 is not young. 35 is not young. So
you're still applying for grants.
Exactly. So I just wish we had that Alexander the Great type of mindset where you realize, and I don't have any children of my own, but it is a prayer of mine that when I have children, I'll be able to show them that you can conquer and you can multiply. You can occupy and multiply from the time that you're a teenager. You don't have to wait out the timelines that have been set for you to say that, it's only possible to do at that point, but it's not possible to do it at 20.
Yeah.
If one can do it, all can do it. That's always been my philosophy. If one can do it, all can do it. You watch Mark Zuckerberg and you want to convince me that, no, but he's different. Yeah. And then someone else does it. No, but it's just the two of them. And then someone else does it. But no, it's just them. No, at this point, I've gotten enough proof that it can happen. So I'm not saying that things will always happen the way that you want them to, but I just wish that we had that urgency to us. And for me now, I'm challenged because I look back and I think to myself, small thinking stole so much time for me.
Yeah.
Small thinking. And I don't know how it's been for you. Maybe you can speak to that, but I know for a long time, I was thinking very small. Funny enough, even when I thought I was thinking big, I was still thinking small. Yeah. That's why I say like 100,000 copies, and then you realize you can do 1 million in a day. Oh my goodness! Yeah. So I want to do 100,000 in a year.
I think it's a pandemic for most people. We just generally think small, and you realize that the moment you start to think in the millions. Your brain shifts. Ideas that come to you shift, because God can only give you to the extent to which you have faith in Him and His capabilities, right? So if you think God can only give you 50,000, the ideas that He will throw your way are those that can make 50,000. The moment you start thinking God can give me 1 billion, all of a sudden you switch on TikTok, you switch on Facebook. People who are coming there on your wall are people who are speaking in millions and billions, right?
Yep.
You start being recommended books that speak about 50x, 100x in your efforts, right? God gives you that. You don't necessarily need to be exposed to a different market to start having all of those ideas. The moment you start saying, look, I deserve this much. I am building up to this much, and God can help me to achieve this much. Even calls that you start getting, people that start following you all of a sudden, the normal people that used to follow you, you don't see them a lot now.
Absolutely.
Start seeing people who are asking you, are you available for this? And when you quote them, they call back and say, are you sure you want 50,000? Because we have never paid anyone 50,000. The lowest we have paid was 250,000.
Exactly.
So, can you look at it and maybe see how you can change that? And in your mind, if you were not ready, you might think these guys are trying to corrupt me. Maybe they want a cut, but no, that is not it.
Yep.
They are used to, people who believe in themselves, people who understand their value. And because they thought, you are that person, they knew that you are probably going to charge them like some 250, some 500,000. So it's all a mindset shift to say, what can my God achieve? Right? What can my God do? And once you start believing that your God can do all of those things, the fear drops, the confidence just goes incredibly high.
And I think it's fascinating. And I'm curious about you, because you come from a corporate background, which means for you, I'm assuming, and you can correct me, I'm assuming that thinking big was somewhere in your wiring because of what you saw when you were in that space, right? So for most people who leave high school and want to start a business, automatically just think small.
Yeah.
They just think small because they've never, if you've worked with F&B and you've had a peek behind the curtain to see, you have an idea by the time you leave. But if you've never been in that space, it takes a very long time for you to move from wanting to barely survive to hitting numbers that you can't even imagine. So I'm curious about you. Has there ever been a challenge, rather? Have you ever had a challenge with thinking big and making that shift? Or was it automatic for you given the background that you had?
No, it's never really automatic. I mean, even within corporate, you still find 10% of the people in corporate are actually thinking big. There was a time I had colleagues who were getting bonuses in millions every year. And we were getting bonuses in your tens of thousands, maybe 50,000 at most. And we would feel like, hey, I made a lot of money this year. But you have a colleague who made $1 million, same period, right? But you are just not putting yourself in a position where you think you can get the $1 million. And this will happen for years and years and years and years. There'll be guys who come, coming from other corporates. They'll come and earn twice what you earn. And you are working in the same area, doing the same thing, right? And when you go to negotiate, the only thing that you can say to HR is that, but this guy is earning this much. You are not even speaking of your value. You don't know how to speak for that amount of money. And truth is, if you were given that money was going to kill you because you are not ready for that. And even when we saw, like, we dealt with a lot of transactions. We saw people who made millions, people who were making millions. But the thing is that our mindset was not in that. So figures were it was just figures. It was just work. It was just a lot of numbers. It meant nothing to us, absolutely nothing. So there are so many people, even to this day, who are working in corporate and they are earning 200 times less than what the CEO is earning. And they know that. But their dream is to buy a Polo.
Yeah.
Their dream is to buy a flat at their peak. That is their dream. Now, when you look at the CEO, because I've had the privilege of engaging with some of this people who have gone on to become CEOs, and I remember there's this one chap. When I joined banking, I found the guy. So I was a relationship manager at the time. And this guy, I think, he was also a relationship manager. But when I joined, he was moving to another department called, where they do Forex. It's called Global Markets. So he moved there. This guy, every time when we had meetings, same age, right? This guy was wired differently. This guy was asking different types of questions from us. When visitors come or the big bosses come from group, this guy will engage. He was always ready for the next step. And I knew then that this guy is going to become something really, really great in corporate. You see, and in a year's time, this guy was being moved, every year this guy was being moved into a new position. He was getting into a different position. This guy was raking in bonuses, right? We started together. But he was thinking totally differently, right? He always knew that at some point he wanted to go and work in Dubai. At some point he wanted to go and work in the UK, right? These were systems that were available for everyone within our organizations, but we were just not thinking that. And a lot of people really do struggle from that. So I think for me it's a universal thing. It's not really about people who have been in corporate. I mean, we have a lot of people who work in the mines and they're not even thinking about owning a mine. They're not even thinking about becoming a CEO of a mine. They're just, okay, I'm an engineer, I'm killing it at engineering, but there's so many other levels to get to. So I think it's universal. It's just a thing of being exposed to the right type of content, the right type of motivation. It's really all about that. Because for me, my life changed only when I started engaging and reading books that were not even related to my field. Books that were talking about growth and 10xing your productivity. When I started reading that, I got exposed. I was like, no, man. We deserve this thing. We deserve this big house. We deserve this car. Average is not for us anymore. We deserve to go to the top. So once you start getting there, things start to move, swiftly.
It's fascinating. And I think it is exposure, like you're saying, because I always tell the story that when I was younger, 7, 8, 9, I wanted to be a taxi driver. That was my dream. My dream was to be a taxi driver. And the reason why was because I lived in a village. And in this village, going to town was about an hour drive. And we only used to take the bus or the taxi to go to town. And I would get to go maybe once a month, if at all in the month. And every time we went to town, I was so fascinated. The buildings were big. And I'm talking about small town, Rustenburg, not even the big city. But the buildings are big. Back home, we have a little supermarket. But in town, you have your Pick and Pays, and you see, it just has a feeling of abundance, of expansion. And so as I'm looking at all of this, I'm thinking to myself, I would love to come to town every day. And the only way I thought I could was to be a taxi driver. I thought if I can be a taxi driver, I can come here every day, because these guys come here all the time, man. Yeah. Every day they come here. So I thought to myself, once I grow up, I'm going to become a taxi driver. And then you grow a little older and you realize, actually, you can have your own car. You don't need to be a taxi driver. Yeah. And then you learn that actually there are people who live in town. Yeah. They don't even have to drive to town. Yeah. And then you keep, you know, as you keep learning, you realize that, oh, town gets bigger than what you saw there. That's not even the biggest you've seen. Yeah. There are cities that will overwhelm you. Yeah. And then as you get exposed more and more, you start realizing, okay, at this point, I don't even think there's a limit, because, you know, here I am sitting with, you know, Thibaut Touch. And as I'm sitting with Thibaut Touch, I'm trying to put it together. How did I go from here to sitting here with Thibaut Touch? Maybe I've been dreaming too small this whole entire time, because if I can sit with him, I can be like him. Yeah. I don't see why not. If I can sit with him, I can be like him. So let's start to expand our thinking a little bit. You know, I'll give you another example, not so long ago, which again took it up a notch a little bit, because, and by the way, the exposure is a constant thing. It's an ongoing thing. It's not a thing that happens one time and then you're done. Because like I mentioned, the books, you know, the book thing. Yeah. But then there was another time when I was flying to Cape Town just a few months ago. And while I'm waiting for my flight, I'm at Lanseria Airport. I sat in a restaurant that's overlooking the landing strip for private aircraft, right? This private jet lands. It's a nice big one. Private jet lands. The guy gets out. He gets into his helicopter. And I guess they take him off to another destination. And as I'm looking at that, I'm thinking to myself, you know, this trip that he just made, I don't know where he comes from, but the trip he just had can probably solve somebody's life problems, right? Just from this one trip that he had. Got out of a private jet, went into a helicopter. I remember the last time, because I like challenging myself a little bit. There was a time I called a charter company and I said, I'd like to book a private jet from Joburg to Cape Town. How much is it? I remember they said, you know, it can be 350 to 450,000, 250,000 to 450,000 from Joburg to Cape Town. And I remember saying, wow. So there are people who do that. Yeah. On an afternoon, they just pay that kind of money, travel, come back, and it just starts to get you to think differently. You know, you see life a little differently, because you realize I've been thinking small the whole time. There's no reason I should be thinking this way. There's no reason why I should be settling for the little crumbs that I get, just surviving. So that thinking is a challenge. And it's an ongoing thing. It's an ongoing thing. I don't know if for you it comes up all the time, but with me, it comes up frequently, because when you grew up with nothing, you are happy to just have something. Yeah. Right. So as soon as I get something, oh, I'm so grateful. But you don't realize it gets so much better. Yeah.
I think for me, it's I got to a point where I realized that we don't really have faith in God. And God loves beautiful things. And there's no reason at all why we should justify being that small in his kingdom. You know, I always like to give an example of when you have kids, they have different traits. Some kids are good generally, you know, some kids are naughty. And normally you would trust the ones who are responsible with your car keys as a parent. You can even give them your ATM card and they can stay with it. You know they will only cash when it's necessary or when you have asked them to, right? The other kids will not. Give them an ATM card. Before you know it, messages will be popping left, right, and center, right? Now, as a parent, you look at those kids, you love them all equally. But the only ones you are going to hand your resources to are those who have shown great responsibility, in the resources of the home and protecting those resources, managing them well. So when I think of people who are in the poorest communities, I mean, we are in Africa is just in the poorest communities. I believe that those are children who can't be trusted. You see, so God is not opening up his wallet to us until he feels like these kids now are more responsible. Right now, what he sees are the Americans and the Europeans and the Asians. He trusts those children of his because we are all his children, right? He's not trying to favor anyone. He's just saying, look, if I were to give more resources to this brother of yours, these things are going to get depleted. You see, and that is exactly what is happening in Africa. Our resources are getting depleted simply because of those kids who stole the keys to the kingdom. You see, is that kid who steals the car. They will never be handed the keys.
Yep.
But they will wait for the parent to sleep and then they will steal the keys and then they will go and roll the car. That is exactly how most of Africa is being run. We are being run by people who stole the keys and they keep on rolling the car. And we are inside that car. We keep on hating and hating and hating and hating. You see, so for me, it's just a thing of, have we shown enough responsibility and faith in God for us to be trusted with the keys, for us to be given the resources to manage? Because otherwise, we are going to be a danger to people that will be riding with us. Yeah.
No, I see it. I see it too, man. I see it too. And hopefully we can continue to do the work that we do. The work that we do is very important. Yeah. It's terribly important. Yeah. This podcast, your other platforms, terribly important in changing the way that we think. Nothing happens until the way we think changes. Yeah. If the thinking doesn't change, circumstances don't change. And that's one thing that I wish more people would realize, because most people, when they hear you, they'll say, well, I don't need you to come and give me words, give me money, because it takes money. And they don't realize that most often it doesn't actually take money. Yeah. It doesn't take money. It takes resourcefulness. And if you can teach a person to be resourceful, they'll figure it out. I always tell people that when I wrote this book, it was a moment of reflection for me, because I realized my first book, I wrote it with a pen and paper because I was at a place where I didn't have money and I didn't even have a laptop. And by the way, let me tell you how I lost the laptop. I took it to a pawn shop and I asked them for a little bit of money and I couldn't pay the money back and they kept the laptop. Yeah. So coming from there, when it was time for me to write my first book, I just said, you know what? I know why I'm in this position. I started writing with the pen and paper. And once you get to a point where you've exhausted what you can do at this level, God will then trust you with more. Yeah. And then once you get to a point where you've maximized this level, he can trust you with more. So there's no reason for me to trust you with taking care and serving 10 people if you can't take care of one person.
Absolutely.
So same goes for whatever it is that we do. If we can just prove that resourcefulness at this level, there's so much that we can do. I mean, I think about, like you said, in Africa, you think about the resources that we've had, and some people focus on what we don't have. But think about what we've had access to, how someone takes 120 million of our tax money and then they go and do whatever they want with it. You think about what could it have done. And I'm not even talking about charity. I'm talking about building, creating, to the point where the Porsche that you wanted, you could have had it. All you have to do was just wait one more year, just build.
Absolutely.
But we don't have that. Most of us haven't had the mental transformation to go along with what we've been given.
Yeah.
So if you give, like you said, a car to your child before they're ready, you are hurting them.
And if you know someone who will enjoy this podcast, do share it with them. Let them know that you are enjoying Beyond the Hustle. You have read so many books. I'm sure that you follow a lot of very, very influential people. What is the greatest advice, would you say, that you have ever had that really changed how you look at things?
There's a lot of things that I can say, but I think at the top of everything, and I don't remember the first time I heard it, but I know I've heard it from different people, which is a man becomes what he thinks about. I think I heard this listening to the old man, Earl Nightingale.
Yeah.
A man becomes what he thinks about. And I've carried this with me ever since, because I realized that most of my conditions were just a result of how I think. You know, your thoughts become your actions become your habits, and your habits become your circumstances. And so once a person changes the way they think about something, whatever they're thinking about changes as well. So if you can learn how to think differently about marriage, about your career, other people, men and women, children, it all comes down to how we think about it. And that's why we're all experiencing life differently. You and I could be experiencing life differently because you and I just think differently. So if I had to choose one, that would absolutely be it. And let me just be greedy and just add one more thing that I heard a long time ago that changed my life, which was how you do one thing is how you do everything. You know, and another way that they put it to me was everything about you says something about you. And it doesn't matter what it is that you are doing. It says something about you. It tells us something about you. The way that you show up for this podcast, you know, you went and took care of yourself, the way that you are dressed, the way you present yourself, it lets me know something about you. It tells me something about you, unconsciously so. And there's no way of escaping it. So everything about you says something about you. So carry yourself in such a way that whatever it is, it says something good about you. You're going to meet very important people. You're going to come across people who are in positions of influence, and they hold the keys to the doors that you want to walk through. And when you present yourself to them, what does the way that you present yourself say about you? The handshake, the eye contact, the way you keep yourself, how you're dressed, all of that. None of this it's not because we are so vain or anything like that. It's human nature. We all respond to what we see because you see before you hear. So I don't care how brilliant you think you are. If you show up in a way that looks like you don't care, then I'm going to assume that you don't care before you even speak. And it's going to take a very long time for you to gain that trust again. So everything about you says something about you. Do this well and you'll do everything else well.
I've always seen in the villages, there are those people who are deemed to be successful in their own right. They have done some things well, nice car, nice house, kids taken care of and stuff. And there will be those people who want to shun such people, to say, why do you give this guy more respect? You know, I speak better than him. I am more intelligent than him. But people don't see those things.
They don't.
They respect someone who's successful not because they are in love with the money that they have. They feel this person has done things that a normal person is not able to do. They have made sacrifices that a normal person is not able to make. Absolutely. So that person then becomes very important. What they say is very important. Even if we think that it's a bit shallow, it's very important because this is someone who has actually tried out things. They made things happen. And at the end of the day, we will be judged by what we have been able to create. If you haven't created anything, it doesn't matter how eloquent you are. It really doesn't matter at the end of the day. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's powerful.
Everything is a result of something. And that's one way to look at it, right? Everything is a result of something. So when you look at a person who is wealthy, a person who has some means, even if you say, no, they got it from their parents, that means they come from a home that had someone who was able to create something. So you cannot get mad at it. You can't let it upset you. You have to accept it. That everything you see about a person is a result of something. You are struggling to keep a relationship, it's a result of something. You know, you are struggling to make a business work, it's a result of something. Maybe a lack of information, maybe you don't read, maybe you haven't made the right connections, whatever. Everything is a result of something.
So what's the worst advice that you have ever heard?
Man, there's a lot. The first, follow your heart. Follow your heart. You know, the Bible tells us that the heart is deceitful above all things. There's no way of really knowing what's in the heart, man. And sometimes you just have these desires, and not every desire that you have is the right desire. Not everything that you feel like is right, you know, is right. So that was the first piece of horrible advice that I've ever received. Just follow your heart. Sometimes you have to take your head with, and you have to be able to say, no, that's not it. I mean, think about how many people have married the wrong person because they followed their heart, or made the wrong business move because they followed their heart, or just went and they had their heart tell them you can double it in the casino, and they went and tried to double it. So, you know, exactly. So, that is a bad piece of advice that I've received. And I remember not so long ago, somebody else was talking to me about just my progress and where I'm going and all of that. And I still remember, and this goes back to the opening conversation that we had about black tax and all of that. And I still remember this guy said to me, don't forget you owe everything to your parents. And because I had this shift in my thinking, I said, that's exactly the reason why I stayed stuck for a long time, because I thought I owed them, you know. So what happens is you never put yourself in a place where you can breathe first. You never get out of the waters so that you can come back with a lifeboat. What you do is, the moment you put your head out, you allow them to pull you down by saying, oh, by the way, let me try to save you. But you are still drowning yourself. So while you are still drowning, you can't help anybody. So, you know, get out of the water, build a lifeboat, come back and get everyone. So this idea of me owing my parents was one that really threw me off at first. And when I heard it, I was like, that can't be it.
Where can people find you?
Poloko Global across all social medias, and our website is polokoglobal.com. That's where people can get this book. That's where people can do the bookings and all of that. But as long as you're online, it's Poloko Global.
Wonderful.
Yes,
and Poloko, thank you so much for honoring.
Thank you very much, brother. Thank you very much. Great conversation.